Hey, this video is about 8 tips and tricks for getting along with your JTE. Now, we all understand how important it is to get along with your JTE, and it may seem best if that just happens organically, naturally. And to the extent that it does, of course, that's a good thing. But your JTE is, of course, Japanese, and you, of course, are not Japanese by definition. So there may be, some obstacles to overcome, some hurdles to jump over. And let's note, too, that it's possible to think you're getting along great with your JTE when, in fact, you're stepping on their toes without even realizing it. So I hope these 8 tips and tricks help. And to be clear, these are all non-obvious things, okay? We're not talking about let's be cheerful or let's be helpful or other obvious things like that. If I've done my job, then these are tips and tricks that have not occurred to you. And the through line through all of these 8 tips and tricks is deference. Japanese society and schools particularly are vertically organized, and the JTE is higher up the ladder than you are, okay? They outrank you. That doesn't mean that you need to suck up to your JTE or be kissing their ass, but simply showing the proper deference to them. So let's get into it. Tip number 1 is to make it a point to walk to class with your JTE whenever possible. I put this on the list, number 1 on the list, because I actually heard the opposite advice given to new ALTs at a training session. The advice was, if you're ready to go off to class and your JT is not ready, head off first, go into the classroom and, have some unscripted FaceTime with the students before class, sort of outside of that 45-50 minute lesson. To be sure, unscripted FaceTime or interaction with students generally outside of the class is generally a positive, and this is within boundaries, of course. This is appropriate interaction. But the reality is that some JTEs prefer to start class on a somewhat authoritative note. They like to be that JT or that teacher who walks into the classroom, or when they walk into the classroom, the students all sit up straight like that. And if a teacher like that walks to class alone, to find you in the back of the classroom yucking it up with the students, it may seem to them that you're trying to play good cop to their bad cop. They may perceive it as just a little bit presumptuous that you head off first and get into the classroom first. It may just rub them the wrong way a little bit. Bottom line, it's more respectful, it's just more adroit, that's the word, to walk to class with your JTE. And if that doesn't convince you, there's a bonus to this. A bonus point is you can use those few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, whatever it is, walking to class, to have some final discussion with your JT about the lesson, to make sure that you understand what you're going to be doing. You'll teach this grammar point and then I'll play this game. Is that okay? Before the class begins. Tip number 2 follows from tip number 1. And tip number 2 is the only one on this list that I might agree might sound superficially just a little bit kissy-assy, but I stand by it and you be the judge. Tip number 2 is this. As you walk down the hallway with your JTE, let them take just a half step ahead of you. There's a saying in Japanese that you should walk 3 steps behind the teacher and avoid stepping on their shadow. Sanpu sagatte shi no kage o fumazu, or something like that. I forget the exact wording. But it highlights the respect that everybody should have for teachers. Letting the JTE just walk a half step ahead is so subtle the JTE probably won't even register it consciously, but it sends a clear, if subtle, message, I think, of deference to the JTE. And tip number 3 is when you arrive at the classroom, open the door for your JTE. If it's not already open, often it is open, and let your JTE walk into the classroom first before you go in, and greet the students first before you, of course, greet the students. By following these first 3 points, making it a point to walk with your JTE, letting them walk half a step ahead, and letting them go into the classroom first and greet the students first, you're making it clear to the JT and to the students through your words and actions that they are the boss and you are the assistant LT, okay, the ALT. Tip number 4 is perhaps the most important one on this list, which is why I put it number 4. Actually, I'm going through sort of in chronological order as you go through the class, through the day. In any case, I see it as the most important one. If you do nothing else on this list, do number 4, which is this. During class, during those 45-50 minutes, don't interfere when the JTE alone has the focus, has the spotlight, okay? When the JTE is in front of the blackboard teaching or explaining some grammar point or talking about a handout or worksheet, whatever, they have the metaphorical spotlight, okay? They have, or think they should have, the full attention of the students, and your job as ALT in that situation is to avoid encroaching on that spotlight. Many ALTs seem to want to, in that situation, they think to themselves, what should I be doing? They want to sort of walk around among the students and sort of help out and say, hey, everybody following what the JT is saying and like that. Don't do that. In the same way that the first duty of a doctor is first do no harm, the first duty of the ALT is first don't interfere. So when the JTE is just not using you during that interval, during that period, stand as far away, put as much space between the JTE and yourself as you can. Stand off to the side of the classroom, or even, I would argue, to the back of the classroom, and be, stand back and stand by.
Stand back and stand by.
Tip number 5 is after class, do some combination of the following. Not all of these, but one, maybe two of these. Thank your JTE. Thank you very much for a lovely class. I always enjoy your classes. Compliment the JTE. Hey, that handout was great that you used, or that game, the students really seemed to enjoy that game, or something. And or consult the JTE. I played this game, I did this activity, we did this in groups of 3. What do you think? Would pairs have worked better? Would groups of 4 work better? Whatever it is. Don't do all of these. That would be kissing their ass, okay? But some combination of thanking, complimenting, and or consulting the JTE is just, you're not being disingenuous here. You're just accentuating the positive and giving them some positive feedback. Tip number 6 on this list is the only prohibitive tip. It's the only one where I'm going to tell you to avoid doing something. And that's this. Tip number 6 is avoid correcting your JTE's English. You will hear mistakes in your JTE's English. There are no perfect speakers of English among the JTEs that I've ever worked with. But teaching the JTE English is not in your job description, okay? The students are your responsibility, not the teacher. And human nature again, right? People like to be thanked, complimented, and consulted. They don't like to have their mistakes pointed out. And this is not an absolute. Some JTEs may ask you honestly to point out their mistakes. And if you have that JTE, okay, who asks you straight, even there, don't do it. Or at least be extremely careful in pointing out, in correcting their English mistakes. I'll grant you that there's a fuzzy area here if the JT is teaching some mistaken English to the students. Again, I'd be very hesitant to even bring it up. Remember that your relationship with your JT is far more important than some small point of grammar that they may be getting wrong. So generally, in broad strokes, avoid correcting their English. Points number 7 and 8 on this list are my stoic advice to you, okay? These two pieces of advice, final two pieces of advice, are about accepting the realities that you can't change and adjusting the only thing that you can change, which is your own reactions and attitudes. Okay, so tip number 7 is this. And tip number 7 goes back to tip number 4, which, if you recall, was during the class, when you sense that the JTE has or wants to have, the sole attention, be the sole focus of the students there, they are alone in the spotlight, that you should sort of stand back and stand by. Understand that many JTEs seem not to have got the memo about this concept of spotlight. And when you are leading some game or activity, there are JTEs out there who will walk around during your activities among the students, talk over you, translate your English into Japanese, comment needlessly, or just basically interrupt you. There is no magic bullet or magic solution to this that I have found. I have tried on rare occasions to sort of ask particularly egregious teachers to, would you mind hanging back a bit when I've got the spotlight, when I'm teaching, when I'm doing my thing? It never works. The closest thing I've ever found to a partial solution to this problem is to promise the JTE at some point that when they have that spotlight, tell them right to their face, hey, when you've got the spotlight, I will stand off to the side or to the back and be as uninteresting as possible and do everything I can not to distract the students. That's what I will do for you. Hint, hint. Hope that they pick up on the idea that they should perhaps return the favor. I don't know if that really works. And the final tip on this list is a little bit vague, but here we go. Again, this is a stoic piece of advice. This is adjusting your own, attitudes and your own emotions here. Accept and expect that there will be huge variation among JTEs, okay? And by JTE, this is a placeholder for it, which includes HRTs and Senka Senseis anyway. Huge variation among these teachers with regard to what they want from the ALT, excuse me. And this is particularly true in my experience at the junior high schools. Some JTEs are happy to have you do everything in the class, and they will give you the full 45 or 50 minutes and say, hey, it's ALT day, you have the class, play your games, do your whatever you're doing, have at. And at the opposite extreme, there are JTEs who usually are very nice people, and they rightly or wrongly don't see any need for the ALT at all. They will not tell you this to their face, but they may tell other teachers. I've heard this indirectly through other teachers, that they just really, maybe they speak English perfectly well in their view, they're internationally minded, they just don't see any need for an ALT. Such JTEs may have in fact been burned by having worked with a particularly bad ALT. There are such ALTs out there, I'm sorry to say. Whatever the JTE's attitude toward you, the ALT, you cannot change that. So if you find that your JTE just isn't making use of you as much as you would wish, when you find yourself standing off to the side of the classroom twiddling your thumbs, remember that you are still getting paid. And there are other ways to contribute to the class, such as, grading papers or like that. Okay, deal with it. You're still getting paid. So these are my 8 tips and tricks for you for getting along with your JTE. Walk to class with the JTE wherever possible. Let the JTE walk slightly ahead, first of all, as you're walking down the hallway. Let them go into the classroom first and greet the students first. During the class, avoid encroaching on that metaphorical spotlight when the JTE has the spotlight, has the focus. After class, some combination of thanking, complimenting, or consulting the JTE, a little positive feedback. Avoid correcting their English. And finally, recognize and accept that the JTE may not return the favor when it comes to deferring, the focus or the spotlight. And remember that JTEs will have, different attitudes regarding teaching with the ALT, unfortunately, but that's the reality. Deal with it. Okay, hope you guys found these interesting, useful, and if you have a comment, I try to answer all or respond to all of the comments. As for liking and subscribing, I don't give a rat's ass. Okay, see you in the next one.